Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we will going to see how we can work on the Excel. Now when you search Excel in the actions, you will see Excel Advanced and Excel Basics. Now what is the difference? If you hover on this, the Excel Advanced required Microsoft Excel to be installed on the device, but where Excel Basics don't require Microsoft Excel to be installed on the device. So if the Excel application is not installed on the machine, then you can utilize the Excel basic actions. Otherwise you can go with the Excel advanced. Now in this video we are going to see how we can work on the Excel advanced. So let's start by creating a workbook. If you want to create a new Excel file, you have to use this create workbook action. Here you have to pass a file path. Let me provide a file path as bot document test.xlsx. Now you see we can only pass the extensions which is xlsx, xlsm and csv to this file path. For now I am passing xlx. So this is the file path. The sheet name is optional. If you want to provide a sheet name you can give, otherwise it will create a default sheet. Let me run this. So it is saying that it already exists. So what I'll do, I'll give a name as I will give name as text Excel. Let me run it. Now if you see here, test Excel is created. This is an empty Excel file. Now the default name of sheet is sheet 1. Now if you want to provide some sheet name, you can provide a sheet name. So let me provide a sheet name as my Excel. And let me delete this file for now so that bot can create it again. Now if you see, the Excel is created and the default name is my Excel. Please ignore this for now because my office is expired. So it is created with the name my Excel. Now once the workbook is created or Excel is created, let's see if you want to create a new worksheet in it, how we can create it. So let me drag drop this create worksheet here, and then you can provide either a name or an index. The index will start from 1. The first sheet will be 1, the second will be 2. If you want to give a name, you can provide a name also, just like if I want to provide a name as sheet test, I can provide it. Now if you see here, it is taking a session as a default, and this is not taking a file path, but instead of file path it is taking a session as a default. Now if I click on the create workbook, you see the local session name is default here, which is created as default, and this is used here. So let me remove this again so that it will create this file again. Why I am removing this? Because if the file is already present, this will going to give an error. The create workbook will going to give an error that the file is already there. So that's why I am basically deleting it every time. We will see that how we can handle this if the Excel is already present and I don't want to create it. We will see this in our upcoming videos, but for now let's understand how we can create an Excel file and how we can create a new sheet inside the existing Excel file. Okay, so this has created the second sheet, which is sheet test. When I'm closing this, it is asking me to save or don't save. Why? Because I have created a sheet but I have not saved this file. I'll delete this Excel file again because this will going to be created from here. Now we are creating a new sheet inside the existing workbook, that is fine, but we have to save that workbook also. So what we have to do, just type save and then drag drop this option save workbook. This will going to save the workbook, and once it is saved, if you want to close it, you can close it, but for now we are not opening it. We are creating and then we are basically creating a new sheet in it, and then we want to save the workbook. Once the new sheet is created, we want to save it. Now let's run the bot and see. Now the file is opened, the new sheet is added. If I'm going to click on the close, then it will not going to ask me to save it because it is saved by this particular action. But the file has opened. If you see, the file is opened when it updated the new sheet name, and when it saved the workbook, the file is already opened here. So I want the file should be closed also. So for that, what I will do, I'll use an action close. So if you noticed, we are using a session name same. Here is the default. The save workbook is also having a default session. This is also having a default session, and this session is creating here itself when we are creating a workbook. Okay, now let me delete this again so that the bot will run end to end here. Now it is closed, it is open, it has added the sheet also, and then it closed the Excel file. So if you see here, the new sheet is added. Okay, now as the workbook is already created, let me delete this section. Instead of this action create workbook, I'm going to use open now. Why? Because my Excel is already there with the same name. I just want to open it. So what I'll do, I need to provide a file path here. So let me click on the desktop file. You can either directly provide a file path like this, shift and then do right click and then copy as path and then paste it here. If your file path is coming from some variable, then you can pass that variable here also. For now I am just putting a hard-coded value here itself. Now I'm going to open the file. This is the file test Excel. It contains a header. No, it is not containing a header. For now it is empty. If you want to open a specific sheet, you can click on this and then you have to provide the sheet name. Otherwise it will going to open a default sheet here. So there are two modes, read only mode or read write mode. So the preferable is always a read write mode. If you want to read or write something into the file, just enable this. If you have the password in your Excel file, you can provide the password by checking this option. Coming down, create Excel session. So this is the same session, default session, that this particular action will going to create. Now this default will going to utilized in the create worksheet, save workbook and the close. Now let's run this. This will not going to create a new workbook, but this will going to open a workbook, an existing workbook, and then it will create a sheet and then save the file and then close it. But here the error will occur. Why? Because the sheet is already exist and we are creating a sheet with the same name again. So the bot will going to throw an exception saying that the sheet is already exists. Let it run and then we will see it how it behaves. The message is saying that unable to create worksheet with sheet test name in test excel.xlx because the worksheet already exists. So what I'll do, let me give a name as sheet test 1 and then let me run it. Now this will going to create another sheet. We will going to handle all these exceptions when we capture the exception handling. For now, let's take a positive scenarios. If you see here, a new sheet is created. Now let me put some data into the Excel file. I'll put a header here as name and department. AA, PB, CC, IoT, HR, finance. If you see, it is created in the sheet test 1. Okay, let me save it and close it. So what we're going to do, we're going to read this Excel file. We're going to read all the data. So how we can read all the data? So first we have to open the Excel file from where we want to read the data. So we're going to utilize the same action here. After that, we don't want to create any sheet, so I'm going to delete this. Save workbook and close. We don't want to save a workbook. We just want to read the data. If you want to read a data from a specific worksheet and put it into the data table, then you have to use get worksheet as data table. Now this get worksheet as data table will going to read a data in the specific sheet and then place a data into the data table. So if you see, this action will going to open the file. That means either you can specify the worksheet or either you can use active worksheet. Now as you see here, our active worksheet, like the first sheet is sheet test 1. So what I'll do, I am going to utilize this option active worksheet. But again, you can also specify the worksheet name like this. My sheet contains header. Yes, my sheet contains header. Header is name and the department. This is something if you want to read a visible text or read a cell value. For now, I am going to read a visible text. The session is default. After that, let's click on the create variable. Now if you see, the type is table. The variable name is actual worksheet data. Now what will going to happen here? The bot will going to read a specific sheet, which is sheet test 1, and assign data to this actual worksheet data whose type is table. After this, I am putting one message box just to see if the data table is having data or not. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a name of the variable which is actual worksheet data, and then I'm going to write dot and then row count and then dot to string. Now this will going to give me the count of data present into the data table. Now let's run it just to see it. Now if you see the count is 3, that means it is giving the data. We have a total 3 data here excluding the headers because we have checked here. If you see, let me first stop the bot. Now if you see here, we have checked this option sheet contains header. If we have unchecked this option, then it will going to give us 4 data, but this the first row is of header, so that's why we have checked this option. Now we know how we can get data from a specific sheet and put it into the data table. Now let's see how we can update the Excel file. Now to update the Excel file, let's create a status column. Now I'm going to update the status for this C2 address. So for that, what I have to do, just type here cell in Excel Advanced, use set cell. Now either you can use active cell or a specific cell. Now I'm going to use specific cell where I want to update a value as success on C2 cell. Okay, so bot has updated the value also. Now so far we know how we can update the specific cell values into the Excel file. There are a lot of actions available here. I have captured few of them, but we will going to capture it later when we try to build use cases. We will try to use or utilize these actions there. So far we are good with the workbook. Well, let's move to the next thing, which is loop. We're going to capture that in our next video. Thanks for watching my video. Have a great day.